and the messages that wouldn't stay deleted. I fix things people swear are broken beyond repair. Screens, waterlogged motherboards, ghosts that live in storage chips. I run a little lab behind a cracked neon sign that says REPAR the missing. I feels honest. Call me Ethan, 33. A man who believes that most mistakes can be coaxed into telling you where they started if you listen long enough. She walked in with rain on her hair and a problem in her hand. The phone was new enough to be smug, camera still wearing its shipping film. She set it on the counter like a confession. "It died," she said. "Then it came back. I want you to make sure it forgets that trick." "That's not usually what people pay me for," I said. "I don't want a backup," she said. "I want retrieval. It was wiped last night. I need whatever is under the wipe." There are three kinds of customers who ask for the impossible. Men looking for pictures of fishing trips they never took, parents who forgot their cloud password, and women whose eyes know the exact weight of a lie. She was the third kind. She offered no name, only urgency and a credit card that didn't flinch when I quoted a rate that would make a dentist sweat. "Leave it," I said. "Come back at closing." She nodded, a short movement that looked like a decision and a dare sharing a body. When she turned, I caught the smell of rain and a trace of almond oil. The door chimed. The shop got smaller. Data recovery is both science and superstition. You image the storage, you walk the directories like a haunted house, you coax the fragments out and pretend you're not thrilled by what people keep where no one should go. This phone had been reset clean, factory halo intact. But there are levels to forgetting. The partition table told me a different story. Erased quickly, reinitialized sloppily. Sloppiness leaves seams. Seams let you pry. By dusk I had files that should not have existed, encrypted message caches, thumbnails that remembered pictures the owner thought he had taught the phone to unremember. There was a hidden vault app disguised as a calculator, meek icon, ordinary name. Its master key lived in a keychain entry that had survived because someone was in a hurry. I smiled despite myself. People think secrecy is a padlock. It's actually a habit you have to practice. I cracked the vault. The thumbnails lined up like a choir that knew the words. Most were boring: meals, city nights, a hotel art print pretending to be important. And then, between a receipt and a sunrise, a picture that took the air out of the room. A woman in a silk blouse, face turned away, a palm flat on a man's chest. The shot was close enough to smell her perfume through pixels. The man's shoulder wore a suit I recognized from a billboard 6 blocks away. Adrian Varela, peak performance coach, best-selling something, teeth like sponsorships. In the corner of the frame, a wrist with a watch face I'd seen in interviews. In the reflection of a dark window, just enough of a silhouette to tell the story was not about architecture. I closed the vault and pretended my blood hadn't warmed. City celebrities are like echoes. You learn to tune them out. But the blouse tugged at my brain. I had seen it in my shop last month. A woman came in to replace a battery and left a smear of almond on my counter and a smile that said thank you without needing me to deserve it. She signed the receipt with an A that took up more space than the rest of her name. I didn't think about her again until now. I ran a script suite I wrote after a sleepless week when a startup paid me in crypto to find an engineer's deleted tantrum. The suite crawled for scraps, timestamps, metadata, the crumbs our machines shed when they pretend to be neat. There were message fragments, enough to suggest conversations moved to an encrypted app that promised disappearing ink. Disappearing ink still stains your fingers if you touch it fast enough. At closing, the bell chimed and the rain-haired woman returned, but now the rain had organized itself into a coat. She sat, did not look at the lab bench and said, "Do you have anything?" I have pieces, I said, and a caution. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they had picked a version of the world they could live with. Show me. I queued up a private viewer. The screen offered her the thumbnails. She didn't flinch at any of the ordinary ones. When the silk blouse appeared, she didn't flinch either. Her mouth tightened in that invisible way that looks like resolve turned inward. Him, she said. Of course. Is the phone yours? I asked. It's my husband, she said calmly. He reset it at 2:04 a.m. and told me to trust him. I told him I was learning. Do you want everything? I asked, or only enough? She met my eyes. Enough to stop gaslighting me, she said. Enough to keep me from becoming the villain in my own story. Understood, I said, and meant it more than a customer deserves. She told me her name then, like it would help me return something important if I lost track of it. Elena. She owned a small floral studio 3 blocks from my shop, arrangements the size of good decisions. Her husband, Mark, did logistics for events, handled contracts and charm. The phone was his. The pictures were not. I burned her a drive with a curated set, logs, caches, the thumbnails, a map of the app that pretended to be a calculator. I did not give her everything. Some things are true and also more poison than medicine. I labeled the drive weather. She laughed at that, a startled sound. You just named the seasons in my house. When she stood to leave, she hovered for a breath. Do you ever look too closely at other people's lives? She asked. All the time, I said. It's my job. And yours, she said lightly, eyes on the counter. Do you ever let anyone look? Only by accident, I said, and she smiled and left with a thank you folded under her rein. That should have been the end. A transaction, a sigh, a quiet shop. Instead, 2 nights later, my door banged open hard enough to make the neon flicker. A man with billboard teeth and a suit that had seen more cameras than rain leaned on my counter like it owed him interest. Adrian Verla in the flesh. Flat screens make people look softer than they are. You're Ethan, he said. You sell ghosts. I collect broken glass, I said, and patience. He laughed like an audience had paid for the joke. You ran some magic on a phone that doesn't belong to you. It belongs to a friend. That phone was reset. You undid a choice. That makes you my problem. He knew enough to be dangerous, not enough to be careful. I return data to the person who brings me the device, I said. If I start vetting relationships, I'd never get to go home. He slid a card toward me, black with silver letters. We can make this an alliance, he said. You look like a man who sometimes wants to feel important in a room that assumes he is. The smile was gentle. The insult was. I fix things, I said. I don't run PR. Everyone runs PR, he said. If you ever want to be on the other side of the glass, call. He tapped the card, tapped my counter, tapped his watch. Rhythm. It's how men like him think they tune a room. Then he lowered his voice. Elena thinks she's playing grown-up detective. She's not. Keep her out of rooms she doesn't understand. That what you told the woman in silk? I asked, and his eyes gave away the briefest microfilm of anger before he laughed again. You're funny, he said. Try not to be brave, it doesn't pay. After he left, my shop felt like it had to practice breathing. I looked at the card and thought about calling Elena. Instead, her text arrived first. He knows. Can you meet me where it's loud? The rooftop bar wasn't mine, but I like heights for conversations that don't need walls. She was there at a corner table watching the city pretend to be calm. She wore a black dress that had arguments with the wind and won. I could feel my pulse in places I usually ignore. I didn't tell him your name, she said. He has people, they find things. He found me, I said. He gave me a card and a warning. He also asked me to stay out of a room. Which one? The one you're about to open. She smiled, not happy. I asked him about the pictures, she said. He said they were old. He said he was sorry. He said if I loved him, we would heal. He said I should stop seeing enemies in accidents. He said a lot, and none of it was a question. She took a breath. Then he asked if I had outside help. The phrase sounded like fog. Do you want to fight, I asked, or leave? I want to win, she said, and I don't even know what winning is. You brought the phone, I said. That's a kind of win. She looked at me with a candor that pressed a thumb into my ribs. Is this the part where we become a cliché? She asked softly. Where I lean toward the man who helps me and mistake relief for desire. Probably, I said, but we get to decide whether we act it out. We didn't kiss. We let the heat find our wrists instead. When she stood to go, she pressed her palm to my chest, over the shirt pocket where I kept nothing but a habit. Still there, she asked, and I felt the stupid, grateful answer in my bones. Still, I said. The next day Mark showed up, not with the billboard smile, with the face of a man who'd found the fire he was insisting no one smell. Tall, wide, a suit like a wall. He dropped a cease and desist letter on my counter and a voice down a register. You gave my wife stolen data. I gave someone who brought me a device access to her device, I said, because she used the passcode. He leaned in. That phone is mine. Then you shouldn't have reset it, I said. Wipes change ownership states. Legally shaky, technically messy. I paused. Morally, I have no court. He tried the smile. It quivered. You're making a misunderstanding into a crisis. No, I said. I think you did that. When he left, I locked the door and pretended it was to take inventory. I was shaking in that stupid way adrenaline demands. At midnight, a number I didn't have saved called. Elena. He's at the studio, she whispered. He's drunk. He's telling me he can fix anything. He can't fix being seen. I'll come, I said. Please don't, she said. Not yet, but stay on the line. I listened to a room I couldn't enter. Glasses. A voice doing arias of apology. Another doing the fragile work of not taking them. Then his voice dropped into that dark pitch men use when they think volume is intelligence. You want proof. Proof is a story you pick to own. You like heroes. I like results. You like secrets, she said. I like control, he corrected, and in the click of a cabinet she had opened earlier that day, another hinge swung. She had recorded him. She had learned fast. By morning, Elena had made a plan that had nothing to do with my neon sign. She met a lawyer who smelled like coffee and victory. She put one file in a safe deposit box and another in a folder labeled insurance. She told Mark she wanted a separation. He told her she was being dramatic. She told him the court would help her be precise. He learned a new word for sorry. The week after, she came to my shop at noon with a paper bag that weighed what choice does. I brought you a sandwich, she said, and also closure, if such a thing exists. Does it? Not really, she said, but paperwork does. We ate on overturned crates and called it a table. The city hummed like a machine pretending to be a heart. I told her about the time I pulled 100 birthday videos off a phone that had fallen into a river and felt like a god for 5 minutes. She told me about the first bouquet she ever made that felt like an apology to herself. We didn't kiss. We let our knees touch under the paper bag. That night, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a glossy photo of Adrian Verla smiling at a charity gala, arms around donors, eyes on himself. On the back, A note in aggressive cursive, everyone RUNSPR. I burned it over the sink, fire alarm screaming, a ceremony to make the room safe again. Elena's studio bloomed brighter. She stopped wearing her ring, then stopped thinking about not wearing it. Sometimes she came by with peonies that looked like they could forgive anything. Sometimes I went by with a phone case for her assistant, which is to say an excuse. We learned each other's Tuesdays. We learned that desire isn't a fire, it's a current that decides what to light along the way. When we finally kissed, weeks later, closing the metal gate at her shop while the city rehearsed midnight, it wasn't a victory. It was a thank you we both owed to the version of ourselves that had sat on rooftops and chosen restraint. Her mouth was warm and exact. My hand stayed respectful. Her breath found my neck and made a map. We stayed inside the lines we drew and discovered they were roomy enough to matter. If you were filming, you could have sold ads. If you asked my pulse, it wrote a manifesto. People still bring me broken glass and panic. I still pry secrets out of chips and pretend I don't care what they say. But when someone asks me now if I can recover what's gone, I tell them the truth. Sometimes you shouldn't. Sometimes the lost thing is a life you're better off letting stay erased. And sometimes, if you are brave or foolish or both, you take what the machine offers and make a weather report out of it. Last week, Elena pressed her palm to my chest in my dark shop while the neon missed its "I like always." "Still there?" she asked. "Still," I said, and felt something anchor that I had only pretended to trust before. Outside, the city kept all its secrets. Inside, we kept fewer. The phone on my bench vibrated once, a ghost asking for a favor, and I turned it face down. Not everything needed me right then. Some messages don't want to stay deleted. Some do. I'm learning which ones to answer.